Hey guys, it's time for Truth Talk. Insightful topics that spark real conversations. Thank you for joining. Let's get this started.
Hey everybody. Hi, this is Kathy Arocha with Truth Talk. I have a special guest today. I have Bonnie Wallace. Hey Bonnie, how are you?
I'm very, very blessed. Thank you for having me.
I just attended one of your a community meeting just over the past weekend. I first met you. I was running for school board here in Arlington, Texas. And I was invited to one of your events. You just got up at the microphone and you just started reading. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? These books were so explicit. And then when you provided information about these books, like, hey, guess what? They're in your schools. Oh my gosh. I was just floored. I was floored about this. So before we get into all those details, what I'd like to know is what and why did Bonnie become such an advocate on these books? Because it's not banning. Let's go ahead and get that out. You can't ban a book. I was accused of that. I was accused of burning. I'm like, I never burn a book. I don't have that authority to ban a book. So, all the name calling came out, and I know you've been getting more than your share. So can you just share your journey?
I'd love to. I live in Llano County, Texas, and you might know this because you've listened to me on several occasions, but Llano County and me personally are being sued for removing 17 pornographic books from the children's section of the Llano County Public Library. They were not burned in the backyard, put in a barrel. We can't ban because I can ask a school to remove a book, but parents can still get that book at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and a myriad of other places. So there's no way I could ban a book. Some friends of mine in June of 21 came to me and they're like, Bonnie, there's some bad books in the library. You mentioned this that I actually read. The reason that I read is we can talk about bad books from here to eternity. But until people understand what a bad book sounds like, or I have pictures, what a bad book looks like, if they happen to have pictures in them, they don't understand the scope of the battle. So these girls were telling me, but honestly, they never showed me anything. They just told me about it, and I kind of blew them off. So I give other people grace because I did not know either, and I didn't react immediately either. So if you are listening to this and you've kind of heard, but you haven't engaged yet, it's never too late. About 6 months later, I'm getting my hair cut in Llano, and one of the lady that cuts my hair says, have you seen any of the pictures of the books that are in our library? And I said, no. And she said, let me show you. So she pulls up a picture from the book Gender Queer, which has a blowjob. I hope I can say that. Sorry.
Yeah, you can say that. I'll
good.
Viewer discretion advised before
Yeah. So it has two children. They're both underage children, one giving a blowjob to the other. And so I was shocked. And Kathy, my hair started on fire, and I have not stopped running around, talking, opening eyes, raising awareness ever since then. This was November 10th of 2022, 21.
Wow.
And we got sued by the judge locally, appointing me to the library advisory board. The library advisory board had not met for 2.5 years because of, they hadn't met, and then COVID hit, and then they hadn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this was January of 2022, that he appointed me, but they had not met until like sometime mid 2019. So it had been 2.5 years. Most of the board had terms that had already expired, including the person who I replaced. But there's always a lot of controversy about, they say the board was disbanded and everybody was replaced with radical right-wing Christian nationalists.
I know, right.
Basically, then we got sued in April of 2022. We got sued by 7 residents of Llano County. Listen,
what was the reason for it? That's what I want to. What was the reason? Was it the same thing? You're just trying to take away our rights, or you're homophobe because it's genderqueer, or I'm sure, because I know I've been accused of that. And I'm like, has nothing to do with being LGBTQ, nothing sexual orientation. It is explicit, folks. Period.
Yes.
That's it. Doesn't matter, gay or not. That's just my opinion.
So the lawsuit claims that we violated their First Amendment right. Okay, so think about this. There's 7 people, 7 residents of Llano County. They are all adults. So when Llano County removed the book from the children's section, they marched them over about 30 feet and placed them at eye level in the adult section. So these adults never lost the ability to check their books out if they wanted them. And this is the thing. If a library, a public library paid for with your and my tax dollars wants to supply pornography or any content that can be harmful to a young mind, it is okay if that library is a public library, not a school library, and that content is placed in the adult section. I'm okay with that. And that's what we did in Llano. So they claim that we violated their First Amendment rights, even though they actually never lost access to the books. They filed in federal district court in Austin, in one of the most radically left, woke courts in Texas, a federal district court. We lost, of course, in federal district court. He ruled that we had to immediately return all the books to the children's section within 24.
Wow.
And that was in March of 23. And so we appealed immediately to the Fifth Circuit for our case to be heard at the Fifth Circuit. Now, the Fifth Circuit, they get tens of thousands of cases every year. They can't hear all of them. So we prayed. We have a group of intercessors, and we prayed, and they prayed that they would take our case, and they did. They heard our case, a group of, it's called a panel of 3 judges. So the Fifth Circuit has 17 active judges, but they have so many cases that they're heard first with a panel of 3. So in that panel, yes. And so that panel of 3 was a great Donald Trump judge. His name is Kyle Duncan. He was fantastic. We had a George W. Bush appointee. His name was Southwick. And we had a H.W. Bush appointee named Judge Weiner. And so they heard our case. So in March of 23, federal district judge in Austin said, you have to put the books back.
Right.
And his name is, drawing a blank now, but he's appointed by Obama, very, very liberal. So they, the left, when they're going to sue you, they search for an ear that they know leans toward their direction. And they know that they're going to get the outcome that they want.
That's politics. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so political. And the right, listen, sometimes we on the right, the judges on the right, will rule against what we think is as simple, common sense.
Common sense, yeah.
But they don't, and they will make a ruling if they think it violates the Constitution. They will rule against us. But the other side never rules against the radicals that bring the suits. So, of course, we knew we were going to lose in this. Robert Pittman is his name. And so we knew we were going to lose in Robert Pittman's court. And we did. That was in March of 23. On June of 23, this panel of 3 judges heard our case in New Orleans. That's where the Fifth Circuit is seated in New Orleans. Beautiful courthouse, amazing. So touching just to be in that courtroom. Other side. And let me tell you, that was such a victory because the other side's attorney, our attorney gets, I think it's like 12 minutes and then they get 12 minutes and then a 2 or 3 minute rebuttal from our attorney. He did a fantastic job. Jonathan Mitchell is his name. And their attorneys, it was literally chaos and confusion in their mind. The panel of 3 would ask a question and they couldn't answer it. So that was June 7th of 2023. June 6th of 2024, a year later, we get a ruling. And the ruling was so messed up. So Kyle Duncan ruled all 17 books need to be removed from the kids section. The H.W. Bush judge ruled all 17 books need to be returned to the kids section.
Wow.
And then the George W. Bush was in the middle, and he said, any book with a picture, so all the graphic novels, genderqueer, It's Perfectly Normal, several, all of the books with pictures, which were 9 of the 17, could be removed. He said could be, not needed to, but could be removed. And the 8 with no pictures, just verbiage, had to remain. And so there was it's impossible to understand this ruling, and how in the world would libraries going forward be able to adhere to this ruling.
Yeah.
And so we immediately appealed within like 3, 4, 5 hours. We appealed and we asked for an en banc hearing. So en banc means before all 17 of the active judges. The en banc hearing, they only hold 3 a year. They hear 3 cases a year. But God is so magnificent. He made our case be the 3rd one that they heard last year. And so, I've always thought that our case will go to the Supreme Court. I don't know if it will or not, but I just have this feeling. So the U.S. Supreme Court needs to rule on this case, on a book case, because we need common sense to prevail.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree there.
So they heard us on September 24th of 2024. They came out with a victory for Llano County in May 23rd of 2025. So just a few months ago, 6 months ago, almost, they came out with a ruling that said, if a library cannot remove a book, then it's no longer a library. It is then a warehouse. And that libraries have to have the discretion to place a book or to remove a book that they think no longer fits the model of what they want in the library for their community. And so they said that Llano County had the authority to remove any book they wanted, any time they wanted, for any reason they wanted. Common sense. Kyle Duncan, he wrote the ruling, and it was 98 pages total. I think his part was like 58 pages, and it was absolutely wonderful. He said, and this is a quote, "Take a deep breath, everyone. No one is banning or burning books. If you cannot find a book that you want at your local library, you can go out and purchase it with your own money." And this is exactly what we've always argued, that I'm not saying publishers shouldn't publish. I'm saying content should not be available to children, to minors. And what you said a bit ago about the children having access. And this is so important because Ted Bundy, in his very final interview before he was executed, I think it was early 1989, said, he asked Dr. James Dobson, who is a very wonderful pastor, who just passed away recently.
Right.
He asked him to come in and interview him. And so he did. And the entire interview is riveting. But one of the questions was, how did you get on this trajectory to rape and kill women? And he says that when he was 11 years old, he didn't say what it was. He just said some pornography in my neighbor's trash can.
It was violent pornography. I remember that. I saw that. I saw that interview. It was like,
yes, but he says he started with what he called softcore pornography, and he found it in his neighbor's trash. And he said, for a long time, that gave me the high I needed. Then after a while, it didn't. So then he went into the more hardcore porn, the more violent porn. And listen, I'm going to read you some books today about violent porn.
Right.
This is not something that is hidden now. It's something that's celebrated, paid for with your tax dollars and mine, placed in front of our children, and they are encouraged to read it. Another thing that I think is I always try to remember to say this when I'm speaking, because a child, whether they're a kindergartner or a college student, in an institution that they are an educational institution, if they find content in the library, they think it is approved. That content is approved by their school.
Yeah.
And of course,
it is.
it is.
Yeah.
And they do not have discernment Their brains are not matured yet. So they do
No.
not have the discernment to say, wow, well, maybe this snuck in, or maybe this was placed in the children's section in error. Maybe I shouldn't be reading this. No, they wholeheartedly believe that that content was approved. We are damaging the minds of our children. And in that Ted Bundy interview, he says that after the hardcore porn no longer gave him a high, that's when he began raping, kidnapping, raping, and then killing girls.
Right.
And so I'm just here to say Texas Public Policy Foundation has compiled for me all of the research of the effects of pornography on the brain that had been done at the time I asked them a couple of years ago. It is riveting to read through and listen to the videos. And keep in mind, all of that research has only been done on adults, because who would volunteer their children to then undergo this research, be provided with porn, start watching it and consuming it and wanting more? Nobody would volunteer their children. And yet, in our school libraries, there is this content right there. A lot of librarians make this display. Oh, my suggested reads for the month. And these books are on there. So we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, we do. And, one of the things, and to your point, that the mind, and I've spoken with people, very, very smart people here in Arlington, Texas, and some that are counselors and all. And I remember telling them that the neuron receptors, the receptors are not connected. They're not in a kid's mind. So we're allowing these kids to make life-changing decisions, or, hey, I can read this and pretend as though it's not going to affect them. It affects them. And I'll be transparent. I know growing up as a kid, I'm a survivor of sexual assault, and it started very young. But one of the things I remember is that I was exposed to pictures and pornography, and I was like 5. To this day, you can't unsee it. To this day, I remember it. To this day. And so you are correct. This stuff literally just ingrains in them, piques their interest. I know it piqued mine as a little girl, but I was feeling guilty all the time. And so, because there's a moral compass that's already instilled in us, right? When people say, oh, it's available for the 11th graders. And I'm thinking, there's 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. And my argument's always been, okay, so let me ask the question. When did they stop being minors?
Yeah.
When did they stop being minors? The reason a lot of kids are experiencing these things is because the adults have allowed it. And then now they're complaining, oh, my kid's out of control or whatever. We allowed it. Number one. So look in the mirror. Okay. And then you get mad at people that are saying, hey, we need to stop this train wreck. It is nothing about taking your rights away. Common sense, folks. Okay. The book of Let's Talk About It, the one that you showed me. I've said this many times. I don't know if you have that available there with you, but
I have it, but it's about 10 feet away. You want me to grab it?
Yeah, grab it real quick. Yeah, because I want to show folks, as she's getting that, I want to show you this book that she read. I was pretty appalled. And the first thing that I saw was this book had instructions for kids to use their phone, because that's another thing. A couple of the folks in our leadership was saying, I can get everything on this phone. They have access here. And that book, Let's Talk About It, says, hey, go here and go look for your favorite porn star. I'm thinking, this is kids. And this was in one of our high schools. And so the other thing I noticed is that there's so many pictures in, and I kept thinking, well, that's great. Graphic pictures. So I went on and I thought, you know what? I'm going to show this to some other folks. And I showed to some other leaders in our community. And some of them just like, oh man, that's porn. Where's that at? And I would tell them, and they're like, that needs to get out. There were some leadership that was just, they kept contacting me like, did you call the school? Did you tell them? Because that needs to be out. And what's really interesting is that anytime that I spoke about this, the one thing that was never asked was, hey, Kathy, what book are you talking about? What are you talking about? They just like, your book banner. You want book burning. You're taking away our rights. So viewer discretion advised, guys. And I'm going to put that, just kind of shows some of those pictures that you showed at one of these meetings. And it was like, oh my gosh. And it was in one of our high schools here at AISD. Thankfully, it's gone. I finally got to the right person and they removed it. So, but that doesn't mean that was one. Better than none, but this one's pretty graphic. So you can kind of flip through that real quick and show us what it says.
Yes. So the book itself is called Let's Talk About It. And so it's such a nice looking book. There's people on it, different kinds of people. Nobody's nude. And it says, let's talk about it in kind of like an ombre style. So this book was the 12-year-old book of the year in 2022, great graphic novel of the year. Graphic novel means, pictures. But one of the very interesting things that I always try to remember to point out is that, and I don't know if you can see that, but
yeah, you can see it.
It is a disclaimer. Okay. So the disclaimer on the publisher's page, Random House Children's Books, has a disclaimer, and there's two authors. They're married. It says the authors and publisher expressly disclaim responsibility for any adverse effects which may result from the use of information contained in this book. Random House Children's Books. So we have a book of the year for 12-year-old children with a disclaimer that's saying that there may be harmful effects.
Don't blame us. Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly. We're not responsible. But sex toys, and gives the names of some sex toys for them to try. It says dive deep with your finger or use a butt plug. I'm like, a butt plug? Like, what in the heck is that? And what are we doing? But the page you were talking about is page 164.
Right.
At the very top up here, it says, the internet is a safe place to research kinks and fantasies. Well, I dispute that because I don't think it's a safe place. Then down here, it says, look up interviews with your favorite porn performers, go to the sites they recommend, and pay for your porn. So listen to me. Listeners are listening closely. This is a strategic effort to capture the minds of children, 12-year-olds. If a 12-year-old does not know what a sex toy is or what a porn performer is,
their interests.
And the book says the internet's a safe place to research that, they can go on there and look up these words. Listen, I went in 2022 to Israel with my husband and my daughter, and I live in Llano, so we don't have any stores here. So I did not have time to go into Austin. This was a week after we got sued. So I was like running around like crazy, and I was meeting with the lieutenant governor and just people. And I made the mistake of looking online for the best walking shoe because I knew we would be walking everywhere.
Right.
And I have gotten over 10,000 ads for walking shoes. Okay. So what will you get if you research porn performers? And if you go to the sites they recommend, what kind of sites would porn performers recommend? So the other thing that I wanted to show your viewers is that down here, it says there is nothing wrong with consuming some porn. It's a fun, sugary treat. Okay. Because remember, we're after 12-year-olds.
Right.
And those are not the only 2 pages. The entire book
oh my gosh.
has hundreds and hundreds of pages. It talks about how STDs are nothing to be ashamed of. And it lists many of them. And it lists HIV, nothing to be ashamed of. You do not have to share this with your sex partners. What? Of course.
Exactly.
This is a battle between good and evil.
It really is.
And there's no other side to choose. It is a time for all of us to choose a side. There's no middle ground. Our kids are in crisis mode. Yeah. And these books, they're not the whole reason.
No, they're not.
It's just one component. But if we can solve one component that's paid for with our tax dollars and provided to our children, and not just that, I've spoken at 161 school boards, okay? Many of them do the right thing. They're shocked, and they should be, right? And I give everybody grace because I didn't know it was there until I knew it was there. And if my job is to open eyes, God has told me very clearly that my job is to open eyes. I used to think my job was to get books out of the library. And I was very discouraged because I wasn't getting enough books out quick enough, you know? I wanted immediate action by people, protect the children.
Right.
But my job was to open eyes, and his job is to convict hearts.
Right.
And it really freed me up. Okay, great. I'm 58 years old. I do not need to be reading this filth that we have in our libraries. And you mentioned something that was important, and I'm glad you did, that the Arlington ISD school board has taken out at least 5 books that I know of. Now, there's 500 others, but the first ones are the hardest to remove. Once they start removing some, hopefully with more challenges, you have to challenge the books.
That's the thing. Let me stop you there, the challenges, because a lot of parents will not challenge because they are fearful of retaliation to their children. And you know what? And that is a reality. That is a reality. I know that you mentioned that.
Yes, but let me give you our victory on that. So in my own town, I'm in Llano, 2,000 people or 3,200 people, you know, small town. My daughter graduated in 2019 from Llano High School, and she graduated with the school board's children. 4 of the school board members had a child in her graduating class. And the superintendent had a child in her graduating class. Her graduating class was 113 kids. So it's a very small community. We know them well. They know that I'm not some radical idiot that's just like going around. People tell me all the time or talk about me all the time and say, oh, she just wants fame. If I wanted fame, wouldn't I have social media? Right? Because believe me, I've gotten a lot of clicks when other people post. But I am not interested in fame. I am interested in protecting children. I'm interested in getting filth off of our library shelves that are accessible to minors. I'm not trying to tell adults what to read. I am trying to say, I don't want my tax dollars squandered on filth that corrupts the minds of children. And so,
You know,
I mean,
one of the things too, I know that when one of the leaders, I'm just going to say that, one of the leaders had brought up like, oh, you know, this is it. And then the other leader, they're like, yeah, this is it. And it's not us. It's not us. They can get everything there. And to me, to your point, like, okay, first of all, you guys have a budget where we need to watch our pennies.
right.
Okay. So we need to be good stewards of the money, of the taxes, the taxes that are being received. And to me, why? Because there was like social media has it, you know, the internet has it. What? You're right. They do. What as a school district, why are we adding to it?
Right.
Why would we want to add to the mess? It's common.
100%.
Yeah.
And the difference is that if a student's parents are buying this and providing it to him, or a student's parents buy a cell phone and provide that to him, or a student's parents have a computer at home that the kid is downloading or buying porn on, those are paid for by that student's parents.
Right.
But this stuff in schools and even in public libraries is paid for by taxpayers. Yeah. But one of the victories previously, so in my own Llano, I started challenging books. And then they changed their policy to not allow a non-parent. So a parent of a former student could not challenge. I got a new bill passed. Listen, I spent a lot of days at the Texas Capitol, meeting with senators, meeting with representatives, even Democrats. I will go in and show these books, and they have voted with the Republicans to stop this filth. So one of the bills, SB 13, it gives, and it went into effect September 1st of this year. So it is now in effect. You do not have to be a parent to challenge books. You have to be a district taxpayer. So own a home or even rent. If you're renting a home, there are taxes paid on that rental. So you can challenge books. You do not have to be a parent. I had so many parents. I could not find one parent after Llano changed their policy.
Mhm.
There's so many layers of this problem. One of the layers is the Texas Association of School Boards, which almost every school board in Texas belongs to. For your viewers that may not know, Texas has 1,207 school districts. I think all but like 50, 55 now belong to TASB. So TASB facilitates writing policy. And when they see that, oh, there's a radical parent out here trying to save the kids from porn, we want the porn because they do. They write a new policy and all the school boards implement it. And so their policy prohibited me from challenging. I couldn't challenge. So I just marched down to the Capitol and advocated and met with senators and met with representatives. And guess what? Now we have a bill that I can challenge again. And I have been, and Llano has taken out over 388 books. That's the ones I know of to date. They've been sending me a list at the end of each month. These are the books we've removed. So praise God, hundreds.
Yeah,
You know.
and that is great. And, that's really bad because, again, that it wasn't like that. I remember you had mentioned at our meeting that it was where you could challenge it.
That's right.
And then they put this policy. You're putting a policy on something that is common sense. Now you want to stop it. And it brings the question, like, why would you do that?
Because they want to keep it.
You want the books in there? And if you do, why? Why would you want this stuff in there? I mean, what's going on? And so
I think many of the school boards that I've met with, I believe the people are good people with good hearts. What they're lacking and what so many people in general lack is courage to stand.
Courage.
And they just refuse to stand. They get nervous. Listen, they've got a fear of man. I have no fear except my fear of the Lord. I do not care what people think about me, what they write about me, how much they lie. I don't care.
And then you're either, when these people get into these things, it's like, okay, who are you serving? You going to still serve the people, or are you going to serve your clique here? Because at the end of the day, you got in here because we, the people, wanted you to represent us. And so now you're not doing something. So no, I'm not good with that. I'm not good with that. And yes, they need to be independent thinkers. They really do. But I don't know what happens that they just kind of get in.
Well, they go to training. They go to training by TASB, Texas Association School Board, trains all school board members. A new board member that just got elected, they have a longer training. But even the other ones have their, continuing education, couple hours or whatever, one Saturday a year. And listen, they spoon feed them that kids need this content. Part of their argument is kids need to see themselves in these books. We have graphic rape. It is so harmful. And you say, okay, maybe some of the kids have been raped. I know that that's true.
Yeah. Or they're going something. I mean, they're going, like, I think it's identical, that one.
Yeah, about identical.
Yeah, It's like it's incest. And it's like, and I remember talking to one of the leaders and I said, do you not think some of these kids are going through this and they're confused and they read this book and it normalizes?
It does.
And it
and
says
glamorizes
that
it.
love is, and it isn't. And this is what they're thinking so that they don't feel guilty. I mean, seriously?
Well, and very interesting. I went to read at a school board in San Antonio, and I've been traveling with a group of pastors, really courageous men, and it is a beautiful thing. And when a pastor stands up there with all the glory of God, and God just gives them the words and speaks and reads this filth, it changes the dynamic in the room.
Yeah.
Not all school boards, acquiesce, but some do. And maybe some do later when we leave. But at this particular board meeting, one of the pastors from Houston, Pastor Richard Vega, brought a young man with him. And I'd never met this young man. And it's hard to get people to really have the courage to read because the stuff is so graphic and so filthy that you feel like you're just betraying yourself. You're betraying morality to read it. God has given me the courage to do it, the stamina, the determination, but it's really filthy. He brought this young man with him, and I asked him, I always find out how many people are coming, usually 8 to 10 that want to actually read. More people will come and listen and applaud and support us by being present, filling the seats. They don't necessarily want to read. And so this young man, I said, his name's David Stokely. I said, David, are you comfortable reading graphic sex, or would you like to read about drug usage? You know, because so many of the books glamorize and trivialize heavy drug usage.
Yeah.
And, you know, suicide, something else. And he said, Miss Bonnie, I was in prison for 10 years. I can read anything. So I gave him A Court of Silver Flames, which is one of the books that your school district has removed.
Yeah.
And when it became his turn, this school board meeting had 250 people. There was always a lot of noise. But when he started reading, and he's reading just 2 or 3 sentences into this book report that I gave him, he began to weep. This was a man tattooed. You know, you could tell that he had traveled with gangs, been on the rough side of life. He began to weep. And the entire room was silent, and it was so powerful. And he collected himself. You could hear the anguish in his weeping, and it was powerful. And he said to the school board, forgive me. I spent 10 years in prison, and this book, this content is not allowed to prisoners in Texas.
Well,
He said, I have
that's
an 11-year-old girl and a 12-year-old girl, daughters, and this content is for them. He said, I find it horrible that I have to stand here and request and beg you to remove these books. And so it was very powerful. But when it was over, I was so excited because I went up to him and I said, David, tell me about the book list in prison. He said, in prison, if you're mailed a book and the book violates, it cannot have any graphic, illegal sex acts. So it can have graphic sex, but not illegal. So no rape, no incest, no molestation, no sex with animals, no sex with dead bodies. By the way, we have all of these books that I just described. We have them in schools, high schools, junior highs, even some elementaries.
That's crazy.
I called Pete Flores, is my senator, and he happens to be the chairman of the Criminal Justice Committee. So I'm like, Pete, I need this list. And he's like, I've never heard of it. And I said, me either until yesterday, but it exists and I want it. And about 24 hours later, I had it in my inbox. It's in 800 books. Now, not all of those are graphic illegal sex acts. Okay. Some of them are how to make bombs, how to make weapons. By the way, I don't think our high school kids and junior high kids need that information either, but that's not what I go after. That's not what I focus on. There's other things like the terrain. If there's any book that talks about the terrain in Texas, it cannot be on a shelf because they have had jailbreaks where they went and hid in an old cave that was abandoned that they found about in books. And so I understand that. But I have found over 100 of those books in high schools, junior highs, and elementary schools. Now, think about it this way. Why in the world would the minds of hardened criminals be better protected than minors in Texas?
That right there. Yeah.
So, you know, listen, we have a book. I don't think it's in your school, but it's in hundreds of schools that I've found. It has 75 QR codes. Okay. I hate QR codes. I can never give them to work, but kids love them. So we have a book for 12-year-old children with 75 QR codes. One QR code takes you to a sex shop to buy your dildos and sex toys. One QR code takes you to Planned Parenthood to schedule your abortion without your parents. One QR code takes you to the nearest orgy. Okay. You put in your location and it knows where you're at. And there's other people around you, hopefully not in Llano, but probably that are on there seeking someone to hook up with.
What's the name of that one? Or that particular?
The book is called Trans Plus.
Yeah, but I'm talking I'm talking about the location. It's like
I don't know what the name of the app is, but I can find it and send it to you. It's in the book Trans Plus. There's 75 of them. So it's just like overwhelming. I was trying to get through all of them. I only got through like 25 or 30. One of them takes you to a video called Fucking Trans Women. It's two women with strapped on dildos going at it. This is where our kids are going when they're taking books out of the school library. Listen to me. We're in crisis mode, people. And if you've never engaged, it's not too late. And
so let me
what I
stop.
do. Yes.
Let me say this real quick to everyone that's watching. Again, this isn't anti-LGBTQA plus. It's zero to do with that. It has everything to do with like these QR codes. It is literally targeting to warp the mind. It has nothing. This is not saying that you can be trans or not. It has nothing to do with that. What it is doing, it is over-sexualizing the kids. A couple of kids that I spoke to, I didn't show them the book or anything, but I remember them telling me they got more common sense. Some of these kids that I talked to, because I don't even know how we got engaged with this discussion, but they just came up like, there's like, those kind of books are in there. I was talking to some other people when they overheard. And I said, yeah, there's some books that are in there. And one young girl, she was 16, 17, and she said, don't people realize that our hormones are raging? And not everybody, not all of us actually think at that level. We really don't. But if you put that in our mind, we're not going to be able to unread it or unsee it. It's going to pique a lot of our interest. And that's coming from a kid. And I was really surprised that, okay, this 16, 17-year-old girl has more common sense and is saying, I'm in the school. Not everybody thinks that way, but once you see it, you can't get it out of your head. And I'm thinking, okay, she had more common sense than a lot of these adults. She did. And people need to realize that this has nothing to do with being transphobic, homophobic, nothing. This has to do with sexually exploiting kids. And I don't know, some of these books, because I interviewed someone from Unbound Now, and Unbound Now deals with human trafficked victims. I am totally believing that a lot of these books are being pushed by them as well to go to these places in order to warp their minds, groom them, and possibly they could you put these cookies and whatever to find these kids. I think it just goes in deeper and deeper, and people don't think at that level. They just don't.
So that's a lot to unpack. But let me start by saying this. When I was deposed, when I was in my deposition for the lawsuit, I carry books with me. I mean, that's how I met you. I was carrying a book. I think I gave you a book.
Yeah, you gave me that.
I purchase a lot of porn. I literally do, because I give away so many books. Because when I'm talking about a book and people actually see the book and see that I'm not lying about what's in it. Right. It makes it different. It's a subliminal message that I'm telling the truth, because people want to reject it and say, oh, she's probably exaggerating. Right. But I'm not. And I started carrying books because I saw a lady in HEB here in my town. Well, I don't have an HEB in my town, but the closest is about an hour away. So I went to my HEB and there was a lady in line behind me or in front of me. I don't remember. And she said, you're Bonnie Wallace, aren't you? And I said, yes. And she said, well, I just want to tell you that I am not in favor of banning books. And I said, yeah, me either. She's like, but you're in the lawsuit trying to ban books. And I said, oh, no, this is not about banning books. We're not banning books. We're talking about relocating content that can warp a child's mind in a very destructive manner and move that into the adult section. That's what we did. And she's like, yeah, but I mean, kids need the right to read. And I said, you're right. And I showed her, because I always carried at the time pictures or copies out of the book. So I had, let's talk about it. But I had just copied some pictures. I copied the ones I just showed your audience. I copied them. She said, how do I know that you did not Photoshop this?
I've gotten that too.
And I said, that's a great question. I said, there's two reasons. One, I don't know how. And the second is I'm a Christian and I do not believe in subterfuge and lies. And so, but I said, you have a very good point. That's when I started buying books. And that's how it happened. But so I had my books with me. I always carry a book bag. And God told me that morning, take your book bag. And I'm like, going into a deposition, I'm not going to see anybody that doesn't know what this is about, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I took it because he urged me to. And when I was in the deposition, it was 7 hours and I was about like 4 hours in, give or take. And probably about 8 or 10 times already, they had said, but Miss Wallace, you're a Christian. You do not like homosexuals. You do not like transgenders. You do not like alternate lifestyles. Is that correct? And I said, no, this has nothing to do with that, over and over. And finally, after about the 4th or 5th hour, and I had 7 hours. So, I mean, it was, on the waning end, but certainly not finished.
Uh-huh.
I said, listen, when they asked me again, I said, listen, y'all keep asking me this question, and I don't think I'm answering it in a way that you can understand. What I am against is sexual content in children's books. I don't care if it's homosexual, heterosexual, sex with animals, sex with dead bodies. It does not belong in our children's section. And so they were very brave and they said, oh, well, can you give us some examples of heterosexual sex scenes that you are opposed to? And I was like, oh, yes, I can. I read to them the book Push.
Uh-huh.
There were about 6 or 7 attorneys besides mine on the call. And it was Zoom because it was 2020 and people were still wearing masks and all kind of crazy stuff. And so I could see all their faces start turning red, beet red. And when they were giving the instructions on how to do the Zoom call, it was, if you're talking and someone else begins talking, you need to hold up one finger because the stenographer cannot copy 2 people talking at the same time, right?
Uh-huh.
And so it had come into effect a couple of times. I started reading, the graphic incest between the father and the daughter, that's heterosexual.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, oh, Miss Wallace, that's fine. We don't need you to read. And I just held up my finger. I held up my finger and I kept reading and I read and I read and I read.
Yeah.
And when I was done reading, there was dead silence. And then the main attorney said, oh, Miss Wallace, we can see that you need a break. And so we're going to take a 10-minute break. And I didn't say it, but I literally bit my tongue. I'm not the one who needs the break. They did not know what was in the books. They were shocked. And when they came back, I walked out into the lobby of the courthouse in Llano, and my attorneys were jumping, kicking up and touching their legs together. They were yelling. They couldn't believe. They said, this is powerful that we got read into the record some of this pornography that we are trying to keep out of children's access. That's what it's about. And I was very clear. This is not about homosexual sex or heterosexual sex. This is about sex accessible to children. It is not acceptable and we need to do better. And so when we got back in after that 10-minute break that they called, they said, oh, Miss Wallace, we went through all of our notes and we find out we don't have any more questions for you. Well, listen, because God convicts them. He made them so nervous and upset that they could not even think of more questions and they released me.
Yeah.
And so we are not fighting this battle alone. This content, if we send our children out addicted to porn, they will never have a normal sexual relationship.
No, they won't.
Ever. And so these kids are going out, they think that sex in their marriage or relationship should be like the books they read. We've got graphic, filthy, violent stuff that we are letting kids read, and that becomes what they think is normal. These kids are going out so damaged because of our lack of action.
That's true. And to your point, and I've been very transparent about what's happened to me as a kid and everything to try to help people understand. And one of the things I know that my unfortunate journey started when I was 5. Okay. And then it kind of kept happening over with different perverted men through the years. But the one thing, to your point, is their mind gets warped because like forever, and until finally God revealed to me finally, is that anytime somebody said, I love you to me, and I always said, I'm independent, man. No, I don't need anybody to be loving me. No, no, no. I'm not ready for a relationship. Forget you. No, no, no. That's weak to me. And I would always do that. But there was something in me. And so it wasn't until I was in my 20s. I was already a mother and all this stuff. And it wasn't until my 20s. And I spoke to, and it was here. I don't even know if there still exists. They're called Total Life Ministries here, and they're counselors. And so I remember realizing that the reason I said that, the reason I felt that way is because when that guy, and I was 5 and he was 17 when he assaulted me, he kept saying, I love you.
Of course.
So I always had that in the back of my mind that love equals tragedy, trauma, all this stuff. And so that keeps you in a bondage. So when you have stuff like this feeding into a young mind and not really understanding why am I reacting this way, or looking at, like you said, their sexual experience becomes warped, diluted, and it really causes some significant damage that may go throughout their lives, or be fortunate enough, like what happened with me, to realize that's why I don't like the word I love you. Okay, I got it now. And so broke free from that stuff. So, but a lot of people are stuck because they read this crap, and adults are like, oh, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings because, I don't want to hurt them. I just want them to express themselves and be free. I want to be there for them and all that. Parent. How about just parent? Because you're protecting their mind. Their mind isn't even developed yet. And so, and a lot of parents don't get that. They're more about, and I'm going to say it, they're more about being friends and their little touchy feeling things rather than actually saying, no, son, daughter, you're not reading that stuff because it's going to be unhealthy when you become an adult. There's nothing about it that is loving, and it is totally twisting, and you're going to have some issues. So, and I'm living proof. I know exactly what porn can do to a person, or what a sexual assault, how it can impact someone. So nobody can sit there and try to convince me that this is some good, healthy stuff, because it's not. So anyway, let's get into talking about some of these books. And just a quick shout out. I'm from San Angelo, Texas. And some of the books that you found here in Arlington, Texas, I thought, let me look and see. I did a quick view, and I'm going to send this to that board as well. So I found, and I want you to read some of these out because these are also in ours, identical. Okay. I used to go to Central High School in San Angelo, Texas. So I looked this morning. Today is what, the 6th, 7th? What is today's? The 7th. And I looked in their library, and there was Crank, identical. And there was me and Earl and A Dying Girl. There's Perfect. And so those are just a few I just kind of went through before we got on air here. I want you to read some of the context of some of those things that I know that we have some of those here in Arlington, Texas as well. You've done some research, and we got some folks that are going to be looking at that as well. And before you do, just really quickly, my grandson, he was here last night, and he actually went to one of our schools at Martin High School. It's a great school. It's a really good school and all. I mean, he's now 22. I was telling him about this interview that we're having. I told him, I said, this is one that I got out, and it was at Sam Houston High School. I told him, let's talk about it. My daughter was there like, no, don't show him. He's like, I'm an adult. Let me look. And he's like, oh my gosh, why would they put that in there? And then I told him about the ones that are at Martin High School. And so he's like, he kind of laughed. He's like, Mom, I'm sure those ninth graders are going to have a lot of fun with that one. And I think he's 22. He even knows. He said, it's stupid. Why would you put that kind of stuff in there? It's going to warp their mind.
Yeah.
I mean, this kid, he grew up, he was a football player. He was into their great arts department. He did really well there. But he's like, yeah, that really piqued my interest. And those things would get around pretty quick. And I'd probably would have read it. I'm glad I didn't. It would have really screwed up my mind. I mean, this is a guy, he's a young guy saying this stuff. I thought, okay, point taken. That's what I'm talking about, little man. So, but anyways.
He has a moral compass.
He has a moral compass.
And so in all of us, when we are born, we have a moral compass, and we shy away from nudity. We shy away from even our parents kissing each other, not with mouth and tongue, just a kiss. But kids are like, it's something that God has planted in children to protect them. And these books, listen, I can't state it enough. They are meant to break down that moral compass, to break down inhibitions.
Yeah, it is.
100%.
And it's working. It's
working because all you have to do
are not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
There's a book, you do not have it, but I'm flying to Missouri in the morning and I'm doing a presentation there and they have it. And many, many schools have it. Here in Texas too, probably 1,000, campuses. But it's called Boy Toy. And it is just the name. You should not have a book called Boy Toy. But the book is about a 12-year-old boy who was groomed and molested by his 6th grade teacher for over a year. It's the saga. And it's so glamorized. It's so disgusting, and one of the just quotes that pops into my mind is after they had sex one day, she would take him home. She was a married woman and she would take this 12-year-old boy home. She began grooming him and finally they're having sex and she's showing him sex DVDs and all this stuff. But after they had sex one day, he's getting up and she says, "Oh, honey, go into my briefcase and take all the answers to tomorrow's exam. I don't want you to fall behind. I don't want you to fall behind." And so think about a 12-year-old brain. They do not have discernment. A 12-year-old boy reading that about another 12-year-old boy that got free answers. Hello. And in Texas, not 1 week goes by that we do not have a sexual relationship between a student and a teacher. And then we have books
under the rug a lot of times, or they just
100%.
They just move them. Mm-hmm.
They're not into notification and transparency, are they? Our school districts. And so you have books called Boy Toy in junior highs and high schools all over Texas.
That's crazy.
Glamorizing this relationship that this teacher had with this boy. What are we doing? What is our tax money paying for? It's appalling. It's disgusting. And we need to do better. That book, by the way, I got added to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice list. And because it's molestation. It qualifies. It's a graphic illegal sex act. And so, but let me read Identical.
Okay.
So Identical is, it's in Lamar and Sam Houston high schools in Arlington ISD. I don't know if it's still in San Angelo, but as far as I know, they have not. Okay. They have not removed any books.
No, I looked at it this morning. Central High School.
I have a group in San Angelo that I am hoping will find courage to challenge these books because I can only do so much. And by the way, I do over and above what most people are doing. I will go into your community. I will show you what to look for. I will teach you how to find it. And I will teach you how to make challenges. And I'll even go speak at your school board. I will help you. You will not be alone. I will equip you. I will encourage you. And I will walk through the fire with you. And so this book is called Identical. Identical. Also, I'm pretty sure I got Identical added to the criminal justice list. I had to get on a list to be able to mail books to a prisoner. You can't just mail stuff to people. You have to be accepted on their list. So this book, it's also very steeped. I'm going to talk about the sex content, but it is very steeped in drug usage, heavy drug usage. And alcohol, by the way. So this is just one page, 150. Create these I call them book reports. They're just excerpts from the book.
Yeah.
I
These
marked
right.
down,
Yeah.
yes, the
I got
page
that.
number. I marked the page number down, and then
Oh, and this is the one that my grandson read last night. He's like, oh my God.
no, it's terrible. Listen, it starts page 150. Daddy burst through the door. I closed my eyes tight, made myself no more than a shadow. Okay, let me stop right there. This book is about two identical twin sisters at age 9. Okay, so we're reading about 9-year-old girls, twin sisters. So Daddy burst through the door. I closed my eyes tight, made myself no more than a shadow. Something about him was different. I didn't want him to find me. I cracked my eyes just a slit as he sat on Kaylee's bed, pulled her into his lap. One twin sister gets molested. The other twin sister always hides in the closet, and the book is written through the lens, the eyes of the twin who's hiding in the closet watching her other sister get molested.
Right.
He smelled of fruit and wild turkey. I love you so much, my little flower. Daddy needs something from my girl, my sweet one. Will you give it to me? I wanted to be his little flower. Would have given my daddy anything. What did he want from Kaylee? She laid her head on his lap. What? I want you to see something that proves how much I love you. This is for you only, Kaylee girl. He gently lifted her, set her down on the bed beside him. Then he opened the snaps on the fly of his flannel pajamas. It stood up, stiff as a stalagmite. See how much Daddy loves you? Show me you love me too. Touch it. He closed her hand around it. I know it sounds bad, but I wanted to touch it too. I didn't know what it meant, only that it made Daddy happy. I wanted to make him happy too. That's right. That's right. His voice rocked in rhythm with his body. Yes, my Kaylee loves me, my little flower. When Daddy finished, he burrowed his face into Kaylee's hair and wept. Confused at his tears and at the sticky stuff icing her fingers, still, Kaylee pleaded, Daddy, don't cry, don't cry. What's the matter? Didn't I love you good enough? So very demented. That's just one page,
Yeah.
you know.
And that's the one that I talked about, that there are a lot of kids, like what happened with me, right? There are a lot of kids that are being molested or whatever and confused, like this book is outlining, and they normalized it. That this is what I want to be loved that way too. And it normalizes the trauma, and it's like, it's okay. It's okay to be sexually abused. It's okay to be
Yes.
sexually assaulted. That's how you get love. And it's like, I'm not okay with that. I'm just not okay with it.
Why are we allowing these demonic thoughts
Yeah.
paid for with our tax dollars
Yeah.
to be deposited
Confused
into the
kids.
minds?
Confused kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Deposited into the minds of our children. So
Yep.
same book, page 238. Daddy had been back to Kaylee for lollipop licking. Lollipop licking. We know that's a blowjob. She had a vague notion that it was wrong, but she wasn't sure why and didn't know who to ask. Then page 393. Kaylee was used to Daddy's visits, but that night she too felt something different in the room. Rage, lust, sorrow, perversion. There was nothing gentle about how he threw back the covers. Already naked, he pushed Kaylee roughly to one side, flopped beside her. I could tell she was afraid. This was not her daddy. This was a demon. His evil was hard and sharp as steel, ready to slice into her. It did. His attack was brutal, bloody, wordless, except for the vicious, shut the fuck up, at her pitiful scream. A please, 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 no, Daddy, no, it hurts. I cowered, sick at the sight, but unable to divorce myself from this horror. I felt Kaylee's pain, and when Daddy was done and she cried, I cried too.
That's crazy. That's okay, folks. This is in Arlington ISD and San Angelo. It's at Central High. All right,
That's right.
let's go to
Yeah.
the next one. And there's Crank Perfect, and I know you had one that the one that I want you to read. That's not I didn't. I got to double check if it's in San Angelo, but is the suicide notes that you were talking about. That one
Yeah.
is
Let me
crazy.
see. I've got it somewhere. Listen, I have so many books.
Yeah, you got Perfect, Crank. I mean, you can do those too. I know the suicide notes from Beautiful
This
Girls.
is a book called Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls. And just the name, suicide rates are at an all-time high since we've ever been tracking the numbers.
Mhm.
And they're at an all-time high, I posit, because we are depositing this type of content in their minds. Our children they're in crisis mode. They need intervention. And the intervention is not more porn in their library. And the intervention is parents who are engaged and understand the difference between being a friend with their children and being a parent to their children.
Right.
Kids just they need love and they need boundaries and they need engagement. And so many parents are so interested in their own social media. They just spend hours going through their feeds or whatever it's called. Again, I don't use any social media. I don't condemn people who do, but we are so addicted to our social media that we are not paying attention to our children. And so
This was okay. Yeah.
it was a relatively new book that I found. It is about a 14-year-old girl who decides she doesn't want to live with her parents anymore. She goes to a homeless camp. She gets her new friend who's about her size and shape, befriends her, spends a few weeks, then invites her to her house, kills the girl, puts her in their barn, burns the barn down, and then leaves her own suicide note. So everyone thinks she has committed suicide. She begins to live off the grid, and she's living with 5 other 14-year-olds who've done the same thing. So it's not very realistic. Only an adult would know, wow, well, that's not going to work. Who's paying for the food? Who's paying for the place they're living? But a child does not understand. They accept it as truth and factual. They don't understand. And here's something else that's so important. Many of these books have been made into movies. Okay, so like the book Push was made into a movie, American Psycho, A Clockwork Orange, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. Many of these have been made into movies, but in order to make them into the movie with a rated R rating, on American Psycho, over 82% of the sex, the cannibalism, the bestiality, which means sex with animals, had to be removed so that the movie could be rated R. Because the movie would have been rated X. But y'all, the rated X book is still accessible to our children, right? So that's one way to think about it.
Schools.
In our schools, paid for by us. Yeah. And when one particular book gets damaged, they just replace it with a new one, right? They're so convicted and concerned to keep these books accessible to children.
So is this particular book the one that actually gives the blueprint how
Yes.
to kill your family
Yes,
and
your diabetic relatives. How to kill your diabetic relatives and get away with murder. So her stepfather is a diabetic. They break into the house. They're laughing, by the way, before that. They're laughing because the girl still has her house key. Think about what we're allowing to be deposited into our children's minds. So she says, when you die, your parents do not change the locks on their house. So she said, I can go in and steal medications from their medicine cabinet. And she names some, Percocet, and I don't remember what else. And you can steal from their liquor cabinet. And so we're planning.
we're giving a blueprint.
We're giving a blueprint.
Murder, how to continue to live in incognito. I mean, we're giving them a blueprint. And the thing is that real quick, I know, and again, when I ran for school board, a lot of the discussion has been like, we need to make sure that we have mental illness counselors because our kids are going through so much. You're right. And kids with mental illness would act on something like that. We see some of the kids that are going through some mental illness, shoot up a school or whatever, and everybody focuses, well, no, it's the gun. Yeah, okay, it shot itself by itself, right? No, it was the mental ill person that was able to get whatever device and to go do what they did because they weren't all right. And you get something like this that's for a kid that's not all right, and it's like, I can do this, this, and this, and if my parent makes me mad and I'm not all there and they're diabetic, I can get away with it.
It is so detrimental, so harmful. So her stepfather is a diabetic. and they go into the house with her key that has never been changed. They get the stepfather, they wrap him a rope around him in a chair. They go get the bottle of insulin. They inject him with the entire bottle of insulin and he dies. Listen, this is the harmful part. The whole book ends, and of course it's fiction, but the whole book ends and nobody is ever held responsible for the murders in the book that the girl committed, right? They get away with it.
Yeah.
So again, what are we allowing to be planted? There's the series of books called, I don't think you have any, called Assassination Classroom. Okay. Assassination Classroom. Just the name. Again, we're
That's
going
just
back
the
just to
name.
the names. There's 21 volumes. Some schools have all 21 volumes. Every volume is about a student who's mad and brings a weapon, either a gun or a knife, to school and kills the teacher and his fellow students.
There you go.
Or a teacher who is angry brings a gun or a knife to school and kills her students.
Mhm.
Why do we have these books accessible to our teenagers
Yeah.
and paid
Makes no
for by
sense.
our tax dollars? Do we want our more schools to be shot up? What are we doing? We've got to do better.
Exactly.
We've
So
got to do better.
let's hit on a couple of other ones real quick. Tell me about Perfect, because I saw this one in Central High School in San Angelo, and I know we have it here in AISD as well. And I know there's another one that has been very, I don't want to say controversial, but it has been deemed as, if you take it out, then you're anti-LGBTQIA community, which is all boys aren't blue. And I know that's in our school district, but I believe that one was added to the no prisoner can read this kind of stuff. And I read some of it and it's like, it's a memoir. Okay, we could do memoir, but there's no reason to get into the nitty gritty of how the guy was having sex. I mean, graphic how. Okay, take out that he was gay, put in that there's a straight person. It makes no sense to me. It has nothing to do with anti-LBG, whatever. It nothing to do with that. But when I heard about it,
I'm anti-sex in children's books.
I am too. Yeah, yeah. And so is a prison. So is the prisoner, the state penitentiary. They're even like,
the prisoner list is for graphic illegal sex acts. So if it's a graphic sex act, that's not illegal. And I have dozens of those too, right?
Mhm.
They're not. And I sent them American Psycho because I was like, oh, this one for sure. No, they didn't add that one.
Because there wasn't a young kid involved, right? So yeah.
That's right. It was a murder, a lot of murder. And I mean, graphic murder. So that book, this man has 2 prostitutes in his room. He's planning to kill them from the very beginning. Murder is not disallowed on the prison list, by the way. That's why I thought it would be. And he's having sex with them, a threesome, graphic details about the sex. And then he starts killing them. So one of them, he skins alive. He's skinning her while the other one watches and she's screaming. So then he goes to the second one and he cuts her lips off. And he says, I want to make her mouth wider. And then he cuts her head off. So he's got this dead woman's head and he starts having sex with the head and coming into the mouth that he has decapitated. It's demonic. This is demonic content, y'all. This is not something that we need our children to read. This is in so many schools. I have even found it in elementary schools. I'm hoping that it's way too big and too thick and too many words for elementary students to, yes, we've got to do better.
Crazy.
But this book, All Boys Aren't Blue, that we're talking about, this one I did get added. Now, I don't know if you can add stuff to your content after it's recorded, but maybe when it's over, you can look up Senator John Kennedy's, he's from Louisiana. He read this into the Education Committee hearing on the U.S. Capitol.
Mhm.
He read this book And this is part of what he read. This is All Boys Aren't Blue, Prohibited to Texas Prisoners. I have found this book in almost every single school I've ever been to. Very few do not have it. And this is on page 271. The whole thing is terrible. I could read the whole book, but we'll run out of time. Nervously, I asked him what he was doing. He laughed. Then I laughed, but then told him that I had never been on the bottom before. Two men having sex. He looked at me and said, well, that's about to change tonight. I was extremely nervous. There is a fear, as with most things, that you are doing for the first time. But this was my ass, and I was struggling to imagine someone inside me, and he was large. But I was going to try. I had previously topped someone who enjoyed it, but he had been enjoying anal sex before I had ever come along. He knew what to expect. I didn't. As an avid porn watcher, the only thing I knew about anal sex previously was that it was painful, or at least played up as such on the cameras. Nervous and drunk, I listened and got on my stomach. He got on top and slowly inserted himself into me. It was the worst pain I think I had ever felt in my life. He then added more lube and tried again, which felt better, but not by much. He began his stroking motion. Eventually, I felt a mix of pain and pleasure. I can't say I didn't enjoy it, because I did, but it was painful for sure. In those few minutes, though, I can say that he was gentle. His aim was not to hurt me, and my aim was for him to be pleasured too. He didn't last long inside me, thankfully. He gave me a kiss before he pulled out. I didn't stay for long, nor did I masturbate afterward. I was in a state of shock. I just wanted to go home. And this book also has a rape scene in it. The same guy that's writing was raped.
Right.
And that's why it's illegal in prisons. I'm going to read a book to you that you might not know about. A couple. Lucky. This was on the criminal justice list before I even found the list. When I found it, this was on there. And it had been one book that I had already known about and challenged at the Llano.
And this is Lucky?
Lucky.
Oh, okay. This is in AISD school. Okay.
Yes,
I haven't
it is
checked
in your
Central
school.
High yet, but okay.
I don't know about San Angelo.
I'm going to check. I'll check
But
on that.
San Angelo and Lubbock were two of the very worst schools I've ever been in, along with McAllen. Many, many, many bad. This is page 5. I'll kill you if you scream. Do you understand? If you scream, you're dead. He released his hand from my mouth. I screamed, you don't get it, bitch. I'll kill you. I've got a knife. I'll kill you. I was on the ground on my stomach. He sat on my back. He pounded my skull into the brick. He cursed me. He turned me around and sat on my chest. Here is where he wrapped his hands around my neck and began to squeeze. For a second, I lost consciousness. He began dragging me over the grass by my hair. Take off your clothes. Please don't rape me, I said. Take off your clothes. I'm a virgin, I said. Take off your clothes. Kiss me, he said. He grabbed my hair in his fist and balled it up. He drew my head back and looked at me. I began to cry, to plead. Please don't, I said. Please, shut up. He kissed me again, and this time he inserted his tongue into my mouth. He unzipped the jeans he wore. Now take off your shirt. Now the bra. He reached out and grabbed them, my breasts, in his 2 hands, squeezing them, manipulating them right down to my ribs, twisting. Nice white titties, he said. You're the worst bitch I've ever done this to, he said. I'm a foster child, I said. I don't even know who my parents are. Please don't do this. I'm a virgin, I said. Lie down. He pulled my underpants off me roughly and bundled them into his hand. He unzipped his pants and let them fall around his ankles. He lay down on top of me and started humping. He worked away from me, reaching down to work with his penis. He called me a bitch. He told me I was dry. I'm sorry, I said. I never stopped apologizing. I'm a virgin, I said. He began to knead his fist against the opening of my vagina, inserted his fingers into it, 3 or 4 at a time. Something tore. I began to bleed. I was wet now. He was excited as he worked his whole fist up into my vagina and pumped it. The base of my spine was crushed into the ground. Glass cut me on my back and behind. Raise your legs, he said. Spread them, he said. He worked his fist. He grabbed my breast. He twisted the nipples with his fingers, lapping at them with his tongue. Tears came out of the corners of my eyes and rolled down either cheek. Give me a blowjob. He kicked me and I curled into a ball. I want a blowjob. He held his dick in his hand. I don't know how, I said. I've never done this before. I'm a virgin. Put it in your mouth. Put it in your mouth and suck. I took it in my hand. It was small, hot, clammy, throbbing involuntarily at my touch. It touched my tongue, the taste like dirty rubber and burnt hair. I sucked in hard. Not like that, bitch, he said. Don't you know how to suck a dick? No, I told you I've never done this before. Bitch, he said, his penis still limp. He held it with 2 fingers and peed on me. I can keep going because there's plenty more. I'm on page 5.
Get the picture, and that book is in Arlington. It's called Lucky, right?
It's in Bowie High School.
Bowie High School.
So you have, just from my list, y'all, when I go into a library, I literally get hundreds of calls every week. So I cannot spend time looking for every single book on my bad list. My bad list has 1,350 books on it now, but I look for about 30, and you have 21 of the 30 I look for. 5 of those that you don't have been removed since you began, Kathy, challenging and talking about what's in libraries. But of those books, maybe 6 of them are prohibited in the prison list. So why are the minds of hardened criminals better protected than minors in Arlington ISD?
That's so true. And I'm looking at that you're talking about this list, right? I'm looking at this list, and for Arlington ISD folks, let me tell you, we have them in all of our high schools, some different, just depending on which one. The one that's catching my eye right now, we have even in young junior high, a book called Camp Quilt Bag. Never even heard of it. And I'm kind of like, we got one in junior high. I mean, it's pretty bad that we have them even in the high schools. A lot of them are in Sam Houston. We got them in Lamar, Nichols, Bowie. We have them in Arlington High. I'm looking through it.
So I'm going to talk to you about, tell me, because I lost it fell off my sheet.
It's perfectly normal. Okay.
It's perfectly normal. Tell me where that one is.
And that one's in Nichols Junior High.
Right. It's in a junior high. I knew that, but I couldn't remember which one. So this book is one of the books that was removed from the Llano Public Library and placed in the adult section. So if an adult came in looking for a book like this and wanted it, it's still there. It's still there today. But this book, I'm going to show you just a couple of pictures. There's so much nudity in it. It's really quite shocking. This book is a 10-year-old book. For 10-year-olds.
10-year-olds?
So
10-year-olds? Wow.
10-year-olds. So technically, I have found it in dozens of elementary schools, because elementary schools, of course, have 10-year-olds. But this was one of the books that they said at the Fifth Circuit, even the first time, it could be removed because it has pictures. And I don't have all of the pictures marked because this is a pretty new book, but I'm going to show you just a couple more. So this book was allowed to be removed both times. All the books were allowed to be removed at the en banc ruling. But even the first ruling was that kids do not need, this is a picture to put on. This is a 10-year-old. How to put on condoms and when they're necessary. And it goes on and on. Even anal sex, you need to have and it's about the description of anal sex. The description of sex is penis to vagina, mouth to penis, mouth to vagina, penis to anus or whatever. These are the descriptions. So it's very harmful. We are confusing our kids in a manner that it's going to be very hard for them to recover from if we don't intervene and stand. That's what I'm trying to, yes, exactly. Get people to stand.
And in a junior high, that's it. They just came from elementary, and I mean, look at that crap. That's just
they call it they call this anatomy. They say this is an anatomy book, and kids need to know
That's
anatomy.
ridiculous.
This is not
You know as well as I do, when we were growing up, when they talk about anatomy, they talked about sex ed. It was about boys going through puberty, girls going through their periods. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. Especially if it's for 10-year-olds. Like, seriously? Come on. Common sense, people. Come on, common sense. I mean, it makes no sense to me.
There is no way that we cannot acknowledge that these books are meant to harm the children.
Yep.
And so are we going to stand, or are we just going to sit by and do nothing? And
Yep.
what is Bonhoeffer's quote? To not act is to act. To
That's
not
exactly
speak.
right. That's right. You are on point on that. And that's the thing with me. I mean, people are so afraid, and I get it, because there can be some really mean people, and then they want to do harm to you, or they want to do harm to your property, or they want to talk about you, and they can do whatever. That's just crazy. At the end of the day, they are coming after your kids. Where are the mama bears? Where are the daddy lions here? Where are they? I mean, do you really think that this stuff is not going to impact the minds of these kids? It is. It's going to confuse them, because again, and all of the little smart people out there that always say, well, kids need to express themselves. You're right. They do. But you also are the adult. You need to make sure, you know what? Let me back up. We are all born as sexual beings. We are. There is time for that to be awakened, and there's a reason for it. And so, but you're awakening this, and it's like, oh, they're free. They have to learn it. They're going to learn it anyways. Well, no, you have to be the voice of reason, and you have to be the one that says, yeah, that's not cool. I mean, you have that in there. Plus you're using my tax money and you're still buying this stuff. I mean, how about let's start saving some money and move this over to bringing up our scores and doing what we need to do for our kids that will actually set them up for success. Not only in working, but in their relationships. You are starting with this crazy warped stuff. And I'll tell you something else. When I talked to one of my daughters that was going to one of the schools here in Arlington, it got so aggressive where the girls, whenever a new guy comes in, the girls are betting who's going to nail the guy first. Okay, so where are they getting this stuff? They literally have bets, and that's what they're saying. I mean, I'm just being honest. Who's going to nail him? And who's going to do this? I talk to kids very blunt. Whenever they talk to me, I'm very blunt. And I tell them, like one girl said, oh, they became so popular and stuff. I said, really? So what happened? Did something change or whatever? Like, no, they just, her boyfriend took a picture. She allowed herself to have a picture of herself. And I don't know, she just got popular. And I thought, so if she didn't do anything and now they're going after her, she thinks it's because that picture. So, and I'll tell them, like, you either decide, if you put yourself out there like that, you are basically putting yourself out there as the village bicycle. I'm just saying. Okay. You have to protect yourself. You have value. You don't do that. And then you have these things that are persuading them, hey, this is cool. This feels good. This is great. And you got to go and do it. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And when I see adults talking to me about this stuff, I'm thinking, okay, I'll let you talk. But you're still wrong, because there's a right and a wrong way. And kids they're going to learn about sex. Yeah, they can go on TikTok. They can go on Instagram. Yeah, you're right. But we don't need to be adding to the mess. We don't. Take care of the budget.
For it.
Yeah. Take care of the budget. Make sure we're in the black. Yeah. Take care of business. But let's not poison the kids. If you want to do anything with the kids' mind, get them to read. Get them to learn math. Get them to
don't give them these books.
Don't give them these books. Yeah. Don't give them
I read an article on the Dallas Express news yesterday that book checkouts in Dallas Dallas ISD have gone up like 62% or 82% this year because cell phones are not allowed. I was like, oh, I need to check the Dallas
Boom.
ISD library. I've never checked that one, but I need to.
I didn't even think about that, but yes, that's true.
So, okay, I have a couple of things to say about that. One of them is that a librarian, I have a lot of interaction with librarians, and I have been an avid reader all my life. And that's why it really took me maybe 6 months to engage in this battle, because in my mind, I was asking, how bad can it really be if it's in a children's book? Because I did not understand how anything that was accessible to children and actually written for children could have content that was so harmful. I didn't understand that. And that's why I go around and read. But one librarian told me that we human beings will become extinct if we are not teaching children about sex. I said, that is your theory? That is your hypothesis? And she said, yes, that's what exactly is going to happen. And I said, okay, well, let me give you some background. These books, these harmful, sexualized books only started being printed after about 1962. So if your hypothesis was correct, we would already be extinct because we haven't been training kids in just sexualized content and how to have sex and how to have anal sex and butt plugs and all of this stuff that I am 58. I never read about this stuff until the last few years. I will figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
But this is something I want to show you. This book, I don't know. I did not check your libraries for it. It's a brand new book that I've just recently located and found out about. It's called Do Animals Fall in Love? Dark, the other side is. The entire book is terrible, but especially this page. It's a deer, 3 white-tailed deer having sex. Let me just pack that. We'll never see that in nature because only the human mind is perverted, not nature. It's a brand new book. Then the other page is also very gross. It has uterus, and it says, cow with clearly swollen labia when the cow is in heat. Slimy, so the bull's penis can slide in easily. Look at this. The next few pages are all about the penises of different animals. Monkeys, snails, I don't even remember what all it is. Page after page of penises. This is the penis size of animals. Different animals. Look at, we're still talking about penis, y'all. It's like, kids do not think that way until we plan.
Okay, so that book that is not going to be like in a junior high. To me, that book's going to be like in elementary.
Yes.
I'm going to see if we have those here in our district, and I'll check it even in my hometown. But that is ridiculous.
It's when you look at demonic,
right? When you look at the actual book, it doesn't look like it would be something like that.
It looks
innocent. It looks innocent.
It looks fun for children.
Yeah.
I love animals.
Yeah.
Look, flamingos. I want to read about this. Listen, they are after our children's minds.
That's just so messed up.
And so I hope that if your viewers take nothing else from this, it is that our children are under attack. They're under siege. The other side is after their minds, and we are harming them. We are allowing them to be harmed in manners that we couldn't even really understand existed or explain it. And so I just have to show people the books. Your libraries are not the worst I've been in, but they are filthy, and y'all need to stand. I can help you. Can I give a website?
Sure.
Where they can go in. It's called takebacktheclassroom.com. And my friend Karen England has this website. You can go on there. You can look at your school. She started this website when my book list had 300 bad books. So it's been a year ago. And she has not updated it with all the new 1,000 books plus that I have now, but it gives you an idea. You can check your library and see what content they have. You can click on the books because it'll give a list and a picture. This book's not on there. I just found this, but it'll give a picture of the cover. You can click on it. You can download or read a few excerpts. If you then want to download it, you can. She also has challenge forms on there, but for each of your viewers, they can email me.
Yeah.
My email is Mrs.MRS, like Mr. and Mrs. Bob Wallace. That's my husband. Poor guy.
I know. Poor guy has to be listening to all this, but go ahead.
And it's spelled WALLACE, Mrs.bobwallace@gmail.com. You can send me an email. Tell me about your school. You may not be in Arlington ISD. You may be somewhere else. I've been up there many times. I will help you. You are not going to be alone in this, but I just beg you to stand. I have groups, I call them war parties. I have little war parties all over Texas that have invited me to their school boards. And that's why I've gone to so many. It's like 15%. I still have 85% of the whole state. There's just so many, and there's so much to do so that we can protect the children in your school district also. It won't be easy, but it will be accomplished.
If all of us stand, and it's like, do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And yes, we will be called all of the buzzword names, even down Nazis, whatever. I'm like, I don't care what you call me, because at the end of the day, this is filth. And I'll say this one last thing, because even when you show them proof, like we mentioned earlier, like, well, I don't believe you. Well, you know what? Here's the deal, guy. And I told this one person, you don't want to believe because you want to be right just to be right, even when you're wrong. And it's either that or you get off on this stuff. So which is it? Boom, he cut me off. I'm like, okay, I got my answer. All right. Especially when people like myself has been through the impacts of this stuff. There's nobody that can sit there and tell me, oh, you're just doing it. No. I know what this stuff does to you. I know how it impacts you. Do not come at me and say it won't do that, because you are looking at somebody that has experienced it, has lived it, and I know, and has gotten out of it, thank the Lord. But do not come at me saying none of this stuff will impact a kid, because it will. It will. So,
100%.
Yeah. I really appreciate the time that we have spent. I'm glad that we did that. I did tell our board members, I gave them the courtesy and tell them, because, we have a great superintendent that's really trying. He's really trying.
He's new, isn't he?
He's fairly new. But
okay, I've heard good things about him. I was thinking he
is helping. Again, there's been a lot of talk about, oh, it's a witch hunt, or they do this or whatever. Like, okay, can we get away from, I'm trying to take your rights away? And can we really look at this from a logical perspective and really ask the question, is this going to hurt them or help them? Just ask a simple question. Okay. Not trying to take anything away. Many of the school boards, they have a motto that they are guardians of the children.
I wish.
Then be a guardian.
Prove it.
Prove it. And so when somebody comes at you and uses your own words, and then you go back to the name calling and stuff, it's like, I'm going to ask the question again. Either you just want to be right, or you're okay with this kind of mess being in the school. Which is it? So anyways, don't be fearful of people coming at you. Some people can be really ugly, where they try to physically try to do something, which I think is ridiculous, because people want to silence you and silence what's true. And it's like, you just want to be right, even when you're wrong. So,
well, I have a hypothesis. This is what I encounter everywhere I go. People will have scales over their eyes, and they cannot see truth and they cannot hear truth. And this is where the other side is. They really think they're helping, but they are irreparably harming children. I'm not trying to tell parents and, adults what they can or cannot read. I am trying to say that children should not have access to content so damaging that it changes the pathways of their brain. Let's band together. Let's do better. And I'll come and help you. God bless you.
And I'll say this in closing too. I know we talk about like the left and stuff, but I'm calling out some people that have some issues even on the right. They got some strongholds going on. They got some battles that they're messing with. They may be really good people and in doing some good things, but they got this warped thing, maybe because of what's happened to them as a young kid and they're struggling with that. It's an addiction or something. It's a very real thing. So there's even people on the right that have these issues. So it is about stopping the perversion. If you're struggling with that, anyone out there, there is a solution. There is freedom. You don't have to live that way. You can be impacted horribly like I did, but your ending doesn't have to be your beginning. And the one thing I've always said, when people do these kind of things to kids when they're young, you strive to break free from that because you take away the power from those people. You take away the power from these people that are trying to put this mess into kids. We have to take away the power. You can't change tragedies or what they've learned, but you definitely can change how the outcome would be. And that's really what we're trying to do here. Let's change the outcome so that they can be successful, have healthy relationships, and really move forward and be doing what they were actually born to be. So That's my last comment there. So Bonnie, thank you for joining me today. I hope that people really just, this thing will go viral. I pray that it just goes viral, that many will hear the reality of what's happening in our schools. I know that we got some folks that are going to be doing some due diligence on the list that you provided us. And we're going to be going to our school district. And I believe that they will do the right thing. And if for whatever reason they do not, then okay, we're going to have to deal with it. And so
there are strategies to follow, but since they've already removed 5 really bad books, I think they may be amenable if you advise them that there are more books and what they are and give them, copies of the book reports. I think they will do the right thing. I will be praying for you. I'll be praying for your community, for your listeners, for your school board, and let's make a difference.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Bonnie. I appreciate everything. And you be safe in all of your endeavors, and we'll definitely keep you in prayer as well.
God bless you, friend.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you. Bye.
Hit the subscribe button to not miss any episodes of Truth Talk. Until next time, thanks for watching.